And welcome to Joy Wisdom Trust. So underlying postnatal depression and PTSD can remain from miscarriage, IVF and maternity. Post-traumatic stress disorder can be underlying and undermining life from adverse experiences. A large number of society lives underlying PTSD without knowing or realizing, and starting early, it can be transferred from parents to the child in the womb. Even in the home, if you have somebody who is depressed, anxious, etc., we can be affected by it too. We absorb the negativity that is produced. We feel that. And formed from PTSD means life is meaningless, under or overwhelmed from life. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, how comfortable you are, life will be a disappointment. Shock causes anxiety and depression, weariness. It wears us down. Overwhelm, underwhelm, and shut down. It really does affect our energetics that support our physicality, and everything starts to go down like dominoes. If we are living from aggression, rape, and shocking environmental trauma, we can accumulate shock daily from media, one-to-one interactions, and pick up from the supermarket. And fears makes us numb. We then have this shell of soul or shell of life living, and it breaks us at a core. It's like a fog that sort of overwhelms and really takes over. People with depression say they feel that they are in a long tunnel. This is why, because the energetics have collapsed around us and can't support us. PTSD will be especially first-line providers such as police, ambulance, medical staff, social service, fire services, migrant workers, peacekeepers, military, they will all be suffering from some form of PTSD. Of course, there are huge elements and varying degrees of shock and PTSD, and it can strike years after the event. I heard a story on the radio one afternoon about a peacekeeper. He had been in one of these war-torn areas and he had come back. He was fine when he was out there. He came back and 2 years later, he just fell down like a ton of bricks because the PTSD hit. The more he relaxed as he came home, the more this took over. This is what we can do. We can cope with the situation, but then it hits afterwards. It can be severe to shocking levels of PTSD. Car accidents, viewing or observing may be instant. A child can suffer PTSD from birth, trauma, lack of attention or neglect, and severe levels of horror of the Holocaust, war survivors. Extraordinary levels of PTSD are lived and frozen in time. It becomes like a great iceberg that people live in, all concentrated with post-traumatic stress. PTSD can be underlying and undetected as normal feeling and scenario for individuals. We get that we become suppressed, oppressed, and repressed. And over time, we don't even realize it's happening. From a JWT view, PTSD is misunderstood, underestimated. It will be passed on to future generations via the womb, DNA, and transference. And as Israel trials have proved with Holocaust victims, from my own experience working with babies and adults and anecdotal evidence, I've found PTSD from grandchildren of war veterans from World War II. The war-torn victim has suffered drastically from PTSD, become an alcoholic, in fact. It didn't touch so much the child, the parent of the grandchild, but the grandchild had it full whack. Levels of PTSD, and he had lived that from a very early age. And we tracked it back to the grandfather. He had been in a Nazi war camp. Horrific experiences. That PTSD that was lived was so great. And this is the dominance that then is carried forward. And it does miss generations, but it will continue. Looking at it, if we can help women and support women and reduce the distress of women in maternity and from abuse, we are going to have healthier and happier children. So we're going to be slowing down the issues that children are living with, and certainly depression that can come from the womb. Logic that follows through that if a woman is depressed in pregnancy, then her child is going to be formed from that. And we really need to take that on board by helping to reduce the depression of the woman, supporting the women in pregnancy, miscarriage, etc., or from abuse, then we have a better chance of helping children and stopping the decline and ongoing mental health issues that are growing every day. www.joywisdomtrust.org. Share your stories. Contact for more information. I thank you for your time.